Welcome to episode 80 of the Relationship Restaurant. It's hard to believe we have that many already. And we are Poppy and Jeff Spencer, and we are all about heart-healthy relationships on the Relationship Restaurant. And we have a very special, very long-distance guest today that Poppy is going to introduce.
Hi, we're so excited to have her here with us. We met Trupti in our mastermind group that we're involved with, and oh my gosh, she is just chock full of so many beautiful attributes and accomplishments that she's going to share with us today.
And a great life journey that we think would be very helpful to many people.
Yes. And so without further ado, Trupti Karjinni is our guest today. So welcome, Trupti.
Hey guys, hi Poppy and hi Jeff, and thank you so much for having me on your show. It's a lovely opportunity.
Thank you. One of the things is as we said, we joined you in a mastermind group, and we'd love to be able to hear how you started your business. Tell us about your journey, because we are, as Jeff said, we're about heart healthy communication that we serve here in the Relationship Restaurant on our podcast. But we'd like to hear from you how you started this journey. And, one of the most important things is, how was it like 4 years ago before you got to where you are today?
Oh gosh, it's like day and night. And all right, I'll just start off by telling you guys a little bit about myself. So I'm Trupti Karjinni, and I'm an artist from India, and I'm also a paint maker and an educator. So it's been a wonderful journey the past 3.5, 4 years. So before, like 4 years ago, I had never painted with watercolors.
Wow.
I never used to paint at all. I think I just dabbled slightly with watercolors. I mean, it was just 4 years ago when I just started dabbling with it. But in May of 2017, I started an Instagram account purely because I wanted it to keep me accountable for painting every day, because I wanted to make watercolors a larger part of my life, because it was very fulfilling for me. And I found a kind of peace in it, which I didn't find anywhere else. And that's how it all started. It all started with just starting an Instagram account and sharing my art on it, because I wanted to paint every day. And slowly, I started building up a community, and in a few short months, I had crossed 10,000 followers on Instagram. And it became this whole thing where people started responding to my art. And I was like, all right, I'm very unsatisfied at my job, and it's causing me a lot of distress in my life. So my wonderful family and friends said, hey, I mean, you're already making more money than your job's paying you. So I think there's something to it. You should quit your job and follow this full time. I was like, all right, let's do it. And that's how my whole art journey started. I became a full-time artist, I think 8 months into just starting my Instagram account. So it was definitely a whirlwind of a ride.
One of the things you just said, by the way, can strike complete fear into a lot of people about quitting your job and doing something like this. It's that people say, well, isn't that just sort of like a folly, just painting? I mean, how can you really make a living doing this and walk away from the security that people often feel that the jobs and benefits are offered to your family? And so that was a very courageous move right off the bat, and we tip our hats to you for even considering that. I want to ask you, did when you started this art, did you believe that you were going to be making a career out of it?
Absolutely not. I mean, 4 years ago, 3 years ago, even if you had told me you're going to have a thriving career out of it, I'd be like, come off of it, Jeff. Like, that's not going to happen.
Come on,
no way.
Kidding?
It's definitely not going to happen. And certainly, I think my intentions when I just began was purely to paint for the joy of it. And I actually like it that way, because it set like a good foundation of painting for the joy of it and not for the money or to have an intention to make money out of it. And I think that's been a really good foundation to have now that I have a very multifaceted business, because not only do I make paintings and sell them, but I'm also a paint maker where I have a small company, a small business where we hand make the watercolors with which artists paint. So I make the paintings, but I also make the paint. And
That's
also
beautiful.
sketchbooks and other art supplies that are loved by artists all over the world. So that was something that I could have never foreseen. Even when I started selling my paintings, I could not have foreseen having a business of that sort. And now I'm also an educator where I have a new membership where I teach watercolor skills and mindset.
Now,
So
let me
it's
stop a
been,
second. You just say you make the paint?
Yeah.
I'm lost on that
yeah.
one. Wait a second. How do you make paint? It's like I think of companies like
You
Glidden
actually
and
make the
how do you make
pigments.
paint?
She makes the pigments. Yeah.
Yeah. So the thing is, in the days of the yore, before we had machines to make paint, artists used to grind their own pigments and hand make their own paints. So we are actually keeping a culture that's like thousands of years old into this modern age where we hand make our paints with pure pigments. So we get the pigment powders and then we add the binder and we make it by hand and we package it and we make it for artists all across the world. And I think there's a beauty to it because there's a slowness and it's very organic and very beautiful. And I think it's something like a connection between my art studio to another artist's art studio,
Yes.
It is.
So I have to just say that as a fellow artist and art therapist here, this was so cool to me. I can't get enough. I will be lost in an art supply store. Like here in the United States, we have a company called Dick Blick, and I will be in there for hours. And I imagine you'd go and Jeff would be in a hardware store, with the same kind of same.
Or if I'm waiting for her while she's in the art store, I'm going crazy. Like, what could you possibly be doing?
Yeah, no, you become entranced and lost in that, just the beauty of like oohing and eyeing over colors and pigments. And so, yes, there is, even in the person that's the end user of your creation, that there's a beauty that this was, oh my gosh, this was handmade, and that there's that humanity touch point there that resonates so much with everyone, I think. And so thank you and bless you for making these beautiful things. I use watercolor too, but just started. And I will, and we'll circle back here. So stay with me for just a minute. But I didn't like using it when I was younger, and I was an undergrad art major, and then an art therapist. I did not like using watercolor because I realized I couldn't control the media, and it would run all over the page and drip and make a mess. And it wasn't until my later years that I discovered the beauty in allowing the art to do its thing and not having me control it. And it was an aha experience when I realized that. So like you, I make like beautiful things, and I love it. I sit on the couch and I just make watercolor after watercolor and just have fun making these designs that are not necessarily, something that I want the end result, but it's the process of it that's making it so great. So
I love that one.
Yeah, do you that one? And that's in our living room. So any art journey that we take is a process, just like our own personal journeys. So that's what we were going to ask you today. What was the catalyst, or what was the one thing that got you from your internal, like what was bothering you, what was upsetting you, that got you to find calm and peace in watercolor 4 years ago?
Yeah, that's such a good question, actually. I think I've always been the kind of person who craves freedom. And I think watercolors, where a lot of people, like you said, they don't really like not being in control. But I crave that freedom. And I think I actually like not being in control for a change. I mean, as adults, and we have to be in control of every single thing that we do. And it causes quite a lot of stress. So I think when I started painting with watercolors, I reveled in the fact that I don't have to do much. Like the water is going to take the control out of my hands. It's going to do its own thing. I just have to like prod it a little bit here and there, and it's just going to do its thing. And I can just sit back and enjoy and relax on the whole process. And so I think that is a reason why I just fell in love with the medium. And I just started painting with oils. I mean, you can see some of the paintings at the back. They're all my oil paintings.
They're lovely.
But I think watercolors will always be my first love because it gave me the kind of freedom that I was craving for. And ultimately, it gave me freedom from not having to work in the corporate world where I was underpaid, I was underappreciated, and I felt like I couldn't really stretch my wings.
So, I'm sure nobody listening to this is going to have any connection to that whatsoever.
Right. I mean, so many people have walked that same path, but they get stuck there. They don't take that leap of faith that you did to say. And one of the things you said earlier is you said you had support from family and friends. Did you ever have anyone not support you or question your taking a risk to go into this paint, this art making and art career full time? Did you have people that questioned that or doubted you?
Okay, this is a very surprising thing because I come from India, and over here the culture has still not come to a point where young people are encouraged to just like go after their dreams and go after something as like something like art, doing it full time and making a living out of it. But surprisingly, not one single person in my life opposed it or questioned it.
Beautiful.
Not one single person. I had full support from my family, from my in-laws, from my husband, and from my friend, because I guess all of them could see that I was just not thriving in what I was doing in the corporate job. And I feel very fortunate that they trust my decisions and my instincts. And they were the wind beneath my wings, I have to say. So I'm very, very fortunate to have a family like that, which is not common in my country or my culture.
Right. So culturally, that was a shift that you didn't expect, you know, that you had that support you didn't expect. And what was going on 4 years ago in your marriage, in your relationship with your husband?
So Nahush and I, my husband's name is Nahush, and he's a lovely, lovely guy. And it's his birthday tomorrow, by the way, in a few hours.
Happy birthday. All right.
Well, after we finish this recording, I'll do a happy birthday song for you, okay?
Oh, that would be wonderful, Jim. That's so sweet of you. We met when we were in the final year of our college. We were both studying engineering, and we dated for 4 years. And we got married in 2017. So that would be like 3.5 years ago.
Right.
We knew each other really well, and we knew we were going to get married. So that there was not like a large shift in our lifestyle or like being together.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
But when we got married, his workload just ratcheted up. It was like right after we got married, and I started working in the same company that he was working in. Although thankfully it was in a completely different department, so it wasn't like we were working on the same project or anything, but we were working in the same company. And I just started a new marketing job over there, and his workload just increased like crazy, and it caused a lot of stress on our marriage. It was our first year of marriage. We were newlyweds, but we were not really expecting that kind of
external stress. We were definitely not anticipating that in the first year of our marriage.
So we had moved into a new home, and it was like I just moved back to the city where our job was, and so it was not really
down. Yeah, there. So go ahead.
Okay, so it wasn't really something that we were expecting. So that was what was going on like 4 years ago.
So what did you find yourself getting anxious or Was there tension in the relationship at all?
Yeah, and it was really surprising because we had dated for 4 years. We were madly in love. We were best friends. And we always lifted each other in anything that we wanted to do. But it did cause quite a lot of stress. I'm sorry, Poppy, what was your question again?
Did you have any tension in your relationship? Did things shift in your relationship at all where communication became maybe strained or difficult?
Yeah, I think it was quite shocking, honestly, because I think the kind of anxiety came from his side because his workload, he was working 14 to 16 hours a day.
Wow.
Which, I mean, my heart just goes out to him. He was going through so much, but he's also an introvert and he wasn't expressing his anxiety.
Sure.
And for me, it was really surprising because I was like, everything was going great for 4 years. And here I am. What happened? And I was like fully geared for like a whole honeymoon year. I was like, oh my God, it's just going to be so amazing. It's going to be like the movies where we're just going to be like all over each other or whatever in the first year of our marriage. But it was really hard. And I was very confused because my job wasn't stressful. And I was starting to find a lot of joy in my watercolors because that's when I started painting again regularly. And I was finding nourishment, but he was not. He was just.
Okay, stop right there. That's a beautiful word. You were finding nourishment for nourishing your own soul, your own spirit, whatever it is. And he was doing the grind daily, hours after hours after hour.
Yeah.
So he wasn't finding that nourishment. What would have been his outlet? If
he
not
didn't
watercolor?
Have one.
Oh, he didn't.
Yeah, he didn't have. Now he's a ceramicist. Can you believe it? He's a
Really?
wonderful ceramic artist. Yeah, and he makes beautiful watercolor palettes for watercolor artists. So what he does, just the other day he was telling me, he said, Trupti, I really think that ceramics is the thing that I was meant to do. And I am so happy and fulfilled now. But it took him, 3.5 years to discover that.
Now, is he doing that full time or?
Now he is, because once my business took off, I was able to pull him out of the corporate world into my business because my business became viable really quickly as soon as I launched it, as soon as I became a full-time artist. Thank God for that. And I just feel so grateful for my art that ultimately I could pull him out of that corporate grip and I could save him. It really feels like that. So there's a lot of emotion attached to what we do. And we started doing our business together and it's been amazing.
People have a hard time imagining, what you're expressing here. That's like, wait a second. So, how do both of you do this? And how do you leave behind, what about insurance? What about, if you did, the savings plans and investments, and how do you, oh my gosh, I can't imagine not having a real job. That's a real job. People often will say those words, that they can't imagine that you can do these kind of things, that there are. So wait a second, there are all kinds of people out there that pay you to get this art stuff from you. And you go, yes, there are lots of people who are dying to, yes, exactly.
Yeah. I guess it comes from like having a community. So I kind of nurtured a community before I quit my job. So the people were there by the time I was ready to quit my job.
Well, and I follow you on Instagram. And one of the things that I noticed that is so beautiful and pure is sharing that vulnerability so that you share, even though you're wildly successful, you still have moments where you feel like, ooh, this is uncomfortable. I'm nervous. I'm not sure this will work. You still have those doubts and you share them beautifully with your community and you make everybody else feel okay. Like, oh, good. I'm not the only one that has fears that creep into my life. And I think that is so beautiful that you do that with such great vulnerability.
And you've been able to summon the courage, something Poppy and I are regularly and ongoing focused on, about having courage to pursue things like this and have the courage to keep overcoming these fears that keep creeping back in. But you clearly have done, you and your husband both, which is marvelous. You can do that because it sounds like his work complements and supports what you're doing now.
So now are you honeymooning now, I hope, with
oh,
both of
definitely. The honeymoon is back on. And I think it's only back on because through our business, but through the struggles that we had to go through, we just got so much closer. We now speak the same language. That is so important in our relationship because we understand each other now. I mean, you know, when I talk about like a business aspect, he gets it. You know, I have a partner who truly gets me. Beautiful. And I feel like it's opened up all these like new doors of communication between us. And that has led to a lot of understanding and I think a lot of more closeness and more beauty in our relationship. And all of this is because we took a bet on ourselves and started doing a business together.
God, this is just
beautiful.
Having beauty in your people are often just so under so much stress, especially when now we're on this whole world of COVID-related additional stresses. Right. You know, your life and your work, what you're doing right now, can really go way beyond that too. It isn't going to be restricted by probably in a huge way. You might have, I think you have an actual physical studio as well.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's probably restricted right now, but you know,
and she's pivoted though to
right, you
online,
pivoted and online, you can do it.
It's beautiful. And I think having that, so would you say that if you had to pick one thing, that it was the calming yourself, the letting go and creating watercolor? Because watercolor is probably, I would say, the most difficult to control medium out there. And maybe clay, maybe throwing a pot on the clay. I remember when I first tried to control that didn't work for me. When I was in school, I remember sitting at the potter's wheel and I was like, okay, I have really good intentions. I'm just going to let this pot do this. And then I started trying to shape the pot and the thing like vibrated like a washing machine on overload. You know, it was like working, and the pot eventually threw on the floor, and it was like, okay, I get it, universe. This is a message to me that I'm trying to control my external environment and I can't. So you need to work with it. And so same with watercolor. I think it's the same message that I get. And it is so relieving. And when you let go of that thing, that suddenly possibilities open up in your thoughts and your attitudes and your belief systems, and suddenly you're able to do things that you never thought possible. So I guess that's the message here. And I was wondering if that same message came to you to say, you know what, I think I might want to take off and leave my corporate job and do this full time, because that was a huge risk.
Yeah, it was. But there were actually two things happening at that time. There was a strain on our marriage because of the many hours that he was working. Sure. We were living in the same house. We were sleeping in the same bed, but we're not really there because,
right.
I mean, how much are you even going to get with each other? Because you got to sleep and all of these things as well. And he'd be so tired on the weekends that all he'd want to do is sleep. And I was very understanding of that, but I was also really confused. So what happened was, my art was my escape. Not my escape, actually. It's not like I was escaping in my art, but it was what gave me support and nourishment, like we said before.
Yeah.
And a purpose to my life. I wasn't relying just on my marriage to get happiness.
Okay, wait, stop right there. Stop. That is a beautiful sentence. And it's a huge message for people. Not putting all your eggs in one basket, not putting all your dreams and expectations on your spouse, but to be able to have the willingness to say, okay, I can get support and nourishment from other places. And so what you did there was you didn't allow any resentment to creep over into your marriage, which and
additional stress
all the time.
You know, that's one of the things, if you keep looking to that other person to provide that nourishment, which is a fabulous word. That person will have just already your husband, as you were explaining, and so many people they're already wiped out with everything else going on. And this just is one more thing you put on them, and it just builds to huge resentment. And you go, like you said, what happened? We were so in love, and now, but what happened?
Where's the honeymoon?
Yeah. Yeah,
but
I think
I don't know if you realize, did you realize that
mm-hmm.
you didn't allow resentment to creep in, that you went to the art nourishment instead? And I think that's a huge, whether it was conscious or unconscious, that's a huge thing, because so often, as we said, resentment does creep in and then it erodes the relationship.
Yeah, I mean, I'm human. I obviously did feel a little bit of resentment, but it wasn't so much directed at him.
Yes.
But it was just directed towards the circumstances.
Right, the job in the corporate world, right, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, my resentment was like completely towards that, because I was like, all right, I'm a good person. I deserve my honeymoon period in my marriage. So why the hell am I not getting it? So, so I was able to compartmentalize. Like, I knew that he was suffering, but I also didn't want to like add to his suffering. But what also happened was, because I was focusing on my growth, and because I was finding fulfillment also in my art, and the way I was like kind of building it up towards maybe a career jump. I wasn't seeing that career jump yet, but I knew I was building up to something. But that also kind of like gave me the strength to work on our marriage.
Beautiful.
So I was able to keep at it. I was like, no, I'm not going to take this sitting down. Something's got to change. Yes. I'm going to change it.
Yeah. Well, Trupti, I know we're on a time-wise, you wanted to try to keep this to a certain time frame. You had another obligation. Do you have a couple more? I think we're getting close to that time frame.
Oh, no, I think we can go for like another 10, 15 minutes.
All right, just making sure.
This conversation is lovely.
It's better than you thought. Huh?
So how did you, one of the things that we talked about before on an earlier chat with you is that you decided as a husband and wife team, if you'll step into this and share with our audience, that you chose not to have children. And and I think, did you ever experience any judgment from others who just assumed that you would have children?
Lots.
Like your parents, they would never do anything like that, huh?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, okay, I feel like extremely fortunate, because like going child-free was a unanimous decision between me and my husband.
Before you got married?
It's not like we hadn't really thought about it before we got married, but like, after we got married, and after that, like brief, like 8 to 9 month period of tension, then, we started doing our business together. We got closer again. I think it kind of like came to us on its own. It's not something one day we just woke up and we're like, are we going to have kids today? Let's decide now. It wasn't like that. It was very organic, and I think it came naturally from the both of us. So I think I'm very fortunate that it's not a situation where we are like, what do you call it? Taking away another person, like your partner's dream of having a child.
Right.
Yeah. So I think that has been a big contributor to the fact that there's no resentment in the fact that, one of us wanted to have a child, but the other one doesn't want that.
Right.
So being on the same level with each other was really, really healthy for a relationship. And it also gave us the strength to stand up in the face of criticism. So we obviously, Nahush is a single child. So there was like a lot of resistance from his parents regarding a decision. In the beginning, we were also told that we are too young and we just don't know what we're doing. And once you cross like 30 years of age, you're just automatically going to want a child. But then Nahush and I also had a lot of conversations about this. We just had to make sure that this is absolutely what we want. And we're both very clear on that. So that kind of clarity, first having it inside of ourselves and then in our marriage, gave us the strength to be calm and composed and explain it to people that we've decided on this and this is our decision. So we would love it if you guys respected that. And we did face a lot of resistance, but I think we have ultimately managed to convince people that this is how we're going to be happy. And we're also parents to two beautiful cats, and we feel very fulfilled as parents. I know a lot of people are not going to get it. I know a lot of people are like, but it's not the same as having your own child. But we genuinely do feel very fulfilled as parents already. Right. And we're content, you know what I mean? We don't want to add to this anymore.
So I'm waiting for one of your cats to.
Yeah.
Where are the cats? I'm waiting for them to like walk across your.
They're both locked outside the studio because they're gonna like be pressing all the buttons.
Right, exactly. Yeah. That's what I expected. Yes, yeah.
Yeah, ours run free.
We have two cats and a dog, so we.
Oh wow! So you get what I mean, in a way.
Yes, but we have children also. But I know that is for our audiences. That could you share with them? What are some of the comments that you got, and then how did you respond to those comments?
I think a common thread between a lot of the comments was that you're immature and you don't know what you're talking about. You're not adults yet, so you can't really like take a call on this. So that was like a common denominator to all the comments. So how did you respond? Well, I mean, we just knew, we were like, but we're already fulfilled. We really don't feel like having kids. We were like, the way we kind of like wrapped it up was, listen, I mean, we know, we're very aware of our feelings. So in the future, if we do feel like we want to have kids, we'll have them. It's not like it's a full stop, not at all. No. I mean, if we feel like it from the inside, so we're going to have kids. And also, Nahush and I strongly feel, I mean, we have like very strong views on parenting. I think that everyone should be a good parent. And if you're not ready to have a kid, you should just not have a kid. And if you do have a kid, you should commit yourself to that kid's life in giving them all the happiness and the best way of raising them, a good environment, a good stable house, stable finances. All of these things are so important in raising children, and we know that.
Yes.
And so we are like, you know, it's not fair to the kid if we have a kid out just because someone is forcing us, and if that's not what we truly want in our hearts, it's not going to be fair to the kid. So
no, in fact, I was just thinking as you're talking about this, if we go back to what your former lives that you were when you were first married, the corporate worlds, a lot of people might have said, well, you know, have a child, that'll bring you closer together. You know, it's like, oh, no, that won't actually. You'll probably, you know, if you're already stressed to the hilt and have no time, you know, that the child's going to now eliminate whatever you have left and exhaust you to no end. And not that that's what, I'm talking people out of having children, but, you know, people often think of children will bring you closer together. They absolutely can if other aspects of your life are, as you were just explaining, well stable, and you're in a great position to enjoy it and flourish with it.
Right.
Yeah. I was going to say something. I kind of like spaced out about it. I'm so sorry, guys. I just got diagnosed with adult ADHD, and this keeps happening to me.
Oh, great.
Especially on calls.
ADHD is so great with art making, because art making really helps keep your focus and everything else. But no, I love that you shared that.
Well, it'll probably come back to after we talk about
it.
It will.
So would you say, you know, we talk about, when we were writing our book, we talk about our one mantra that is filtered throughout the book: with complete vulnerability comes absolute empowerment. Okay, so it seems counterintuitive.
People hear that and they go, wait a second. No. If you're totally vulnerable, that means you're going to be weakened. And I think you've walked that path, Trupti, of being totally vulnerable, and now you find yourself incredibly empowered.
I think there's I see it in two ways. There are like two great benefits of being vulnerable. The first thing is it allows me to ask for help. Mm-hmm. And for some reason, I've never been like shy of asking for help. I don't think I've had like pride come in the way, like, no, I have to do it all by myself. I'm not going to ask for help. Although I am an achiever and I am an ambitious woman, and I have no shame in saying that. I'm very ambitious. I want a big, beautiful life full of travel and adventures. But being vulnerable has allowed me to reach out my hand and ask for help. And that has helped me a lot of times in my business. And it's helped me create a beautiful community of people who, and I mean, people like to help. I know they do. And so I don't think there's anything wrong in asking for help. And there's a great benefit in being vulnerable. Mm-hmm. And another thing about, I think, Poppy, previously when you said that, I'm vulnerable on Instagram to my audience.
Yes.
I think when I look at other successful artists, the image that I always get from them is they've all got it together. They're earning six figures. So, they're not going to have any vulnerabilities. They're just killing it every day. But I feel that the more, and I know that this is the truth with other really successful creative entrepreneurs as well, the more you go towards success, you have to try bigger and bolder things. And I feel like I live in constant uncertainty, anxiety, because I'm constantly out of my comfort zone. I've made a home in my uncomfortable zone. I am not in my comfort. I'm never in my comfort zone.
Do you know what that's
called? And
so that's called
no, I don't know what that
transitional space, when you're in between these two things. And so I know when I was working on my graduate thesis, that transitional space came up all the time. And if you can make peace and if you can not only tread water there, but if you can stand firmly in that space, you're killing it. Really?
Yeah, a way to thrive in that space, I suppose.
Yes.
And so I feel like, yeah, go ahead.
You're comfortable. You're familiar with it. It's not scary anymore. It's like, yeah, I embrace chaos and uncertainty, and I don't need to know what's going to happen next, because I'm going to deal with it as it comes. And I have the resolve to do that. And I have the courage to do that. And I have the resources to do that. So you're like, yeah, bring it on.
And the support and the support from my lovely husband and my beautiful family. I do have the support, and from my community, I think. And so I think one of my biggest missions, I suppose, is to empower anybody to think that they can be an artist as well, and they can be a successful creative entrepreneur. And I feel kind of like a duty almost, that if I'm vulnerable, there's someone out there who's going to believe that, if she can do it, then I can do it. Yes. Because I think I found my greatest moments of strength when I look up to the people I look up to, and the artists and the creative entrepreneurs. And if they share a vulnerable moment, if they say that I've been burnt out and, this has been really difficult, but I did it, I find some of my greatest, strength in those moments. When I see that, okay, there's like a chink in that armor as well. Like, they are normal people like me, which means I can do big and beautiful things myself, even though they're scary. So I feel like if I'm vulnerable and if I share these things, another creative person might feel empowered that they can do it as well.
Well, that's a great note to say. How would someone reach out and to find you if they were interested in learning more about this and learning about your art and learning about you? Where would they find you?
Okay. Well, a great way to find me is on my Instagram. I just go by Trupti Karjinni. And if they want to, be mentored by me, and if they want to learn watercolors and how to really enjoy and give wings to your creativity in this beautiful medium, they can find out more about my membership on thrivewithtrupti.com, because that's the name of my membership. It's called Thrive with Trupti. And honestly, Thrive is my word of the year, because I think we're all doing that in these unusual circumstances that we're in. We're finding ways to thrive together as community, and we're growing. I think all of us are growing in one way or another in these times.
If you could too, could you spell your name so someone like me, who I have no idea how to spell Trupti. Well, you know you do, but I don't. But.
Okay, so my name is spelled Trupti. It's Trupti, and my last name is spelled Karjinni, Karjinni.
Great. Well, you've been an absolutely wonderful guest here on the Relationship Restaurant, and we thank you for sharing your journey and all your wonderful insights and your beautiful artwork.
So yay, Trupti,
You're
thank you.
Folks.
Thank you. So are you. You're truly an inspiration. Thank you, Trupti.
Oh,
thanks for being with us.
Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it.
Take care. Till next time.